This video is a supplement to the one-point perspective introduction. What we're going to look at here is how to kind of take that idea maybe a little bit further if you're looking for a challenge. So what you see here is just simple one-point boxes. There's four of them here, and they're sharing the guidelines, which is an important part. I wanted to show you the end just so you can kind of see where we're going. Let me go ahead and start to remove these boxes. And we're going to start with the basic idea of creating that one-point perspective box. We're basically creating our square here, taking the corners back to the vanishing point, and then filling in that back portion along those guidelines. Once we have done that, and if we wanted to create an object in series, all we would have to do is basically repeat the same process we did for this rear portion back a little bit further. So let me go ahead and bring in the next box here. So we just start along those same corners, this line being the bottom left corner, this one being bottom right, top left, and just kind of repeat that with using the same guidelines. Now this does two things. It helps emphasize your sense of space, and it also creates a sense of organization, which you'll see typically in interior spaces. You'll see it in cityscapes where everything's lined up in blocks. So in your observations, you're going to see this occur, whether you've realized it or not before this point. So practicing it now, it can kind of make sense. The next big thing you get out of this is you save yourself from creating lots of extra sets of guidelines for each individual object. Reusing guidelines will help with organization and ultimately is going to save you a great deal of time. Continuing on, our third one, just kind of a guideline, if we darken it in, and you can see how that sense of space really starts to catch a little bit better when there's some sharing going on here. What I want to do at this point is take a little bit of segue, because this is a pretty simple idea once you catch on to it and practice it a few times. It doesn't tend to be too difficult to reuse. What I want to look at is expanding on this. So using those ideas of a centering mark, what I'm going to do is make a new shape. And perspective does this a great deal when you're trying to make something, thinking like a tractor or a table. You're going to bring in lots of different pieces of box shapes, simplifying down, and then building them together into something a little bit more complex. We're using our centering mark, basically creating an X in the front plane here, using a centering line from that center point created by the X to find the top and bottom. From there, I'm going to create the triangle shape so you can see the angles there. Let's go ahead and remove that. Just using that point we've identified with the centering X and centering line for our triangle, using the original corners, reversing that, doing the same thing on the top here so you can see if we bring back those initial guidelines. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger for you. Just using those triangles, building off that. Now we've got a great deal of guidelines going on here. This is going to take some organization with your value, a little bit of patience to kind of get it right. But what we can do once we have that is if we highlight a few of the lines, we can just create a new shape, something a little bit different, using those same ideas. We repeat that process on the back plane as well. And the reason we're going to repeat this, and this applies to kind of that pitched roof idea, is we want these angles to be consistent. We'll go ahead and add this in. And so I did this one as opaque because there was already enough guidelines there. I didn't want to make it too complicated. But you get that idea. If we combine two of these triangles, we make something a little bit different, almost has kind of an hourglass kind of shape. Feel free to experiment with you if you want. If you feel like you need that extra challenge, it's definitely not something I'm expecting by any means, but I wanted to give you something a little bit more to work with depending on where you're at. And so if we go back at the end here, adding our boxes back in, take out those guidelines, and there's our sense of space that we're trying to create. Now again, these are all transparent with the assignment, the first perspective assignment, in the course, the actual drawing assignment. You do want to have a combination of opaque and transparent. Keep that in mind as well. But this is just something to try. if you're looking for something a little bit extra to add to this type of image.